So we'll kick off, and we've got Jonathan here. We're going to talk about something I think is really interesting: the idea of shortening attention spans, and more so, not to harp on that kind of a thing, but more so the idea of how, whether it's social media or just constant distractions or the go 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 or whatever it is, the fact that it seems like there are people out there that spend less time with an album, less time with a song before they start to go, I don't like it, or what have you. So, Jonathan, go ahead, man, kick us off, because I think this will be a fun conversation to have.
Yeah, I feel like definitely the thing you said about kind of turning it off and going back to their old style, whether it be trap or a different subgenre, where you're getting all of these new sounds, and you're kind of being like, oh, this sounds kind of strange, and I don't know if I want to go here. I'm just gonna stay to my comfort zone where I'm listening to the same old style of music, and instead of kind of expanding and experiencing new sounds as you go along on your kind of music journey, I guess.
Yeah, and it is interesting how I find myself, not recently because of the channel and going through all this music, but before then, I would find myself thinking, I want to listen to something new. And we've touched, this has been touched on before in different episodes, but this idea of, I want to hear something new, but I don't really know what. And there's something about the albums that you already know and you're comfortable with, the sound, the style. And, usually for me, when I want to listen to an album, it's like, okay, I want to listen to a specific sound, something, I'm in the mood for this. But if you want something new, because maybe you're tired of listening to that, you go, okay, I want something new, but you have no idea what will fit that mood because you haven't listened to it before. So then you're like, well, I guess I'll just put this on. But then you just get stuck in this loop where you never ever listen to the new thing. And it's like, at
Yeah,
some point you got to break out.
kind of like I know you listen to Take Care. I don't think you've listened to another Drake album, but a lot of the albums are kind of the exact same style. And his album that recently came out a couple weeks ago called Honestly Nevermind, it was kind of a much more different approach to his kind of artistry, and the fact that it was all club songs, kind of, except for one song at the end. But it was all club sounds, and the whole fan base is kind of divided now, saying, "Oh, is this his best album, or is it his worst album? Is it and just not giving it time to kind of sink in and kind of feel it instead of you know actually, and then they're going back to their old style, which is, oh, they're listening to the same three Drake albums all the time instead of listening to the new one, which has like tons of new sounds. Which I get it, it's not the best Drake album, but it's still kind of cool to see him change and take on a new style, I guess.
Yeah, so what is your opinion on the album? I mean, it sounds like you listen to Drake. It sounds like you enjoy his
Uh,
music. I mean, how do you feel about the new album?
I liked it. It's not mind blowing. It's Drake's rapping about the same. It's him rapping about the same stuff, but it's just kind of music sounds a lot more fresh, I guess. And I do enjoy the album. I'm not Drake's stan. Like I don't love him, but I do like him. I listen to his music quite often. But the new album is it's good, but it's not anything spectacular. But if he would have kind of changed his delivery and his flow and onto those beats, it would have been something completely different. I think that's where he kind of could have taken it a step forward a bit.
Interesting, interesting. Because you mentioning that album is, I think, is perfect for this conversation because I remember when it came out, and it seemed like fucking immediately people were like, "Oh,
Yeah,
it's garbage." No, it's amazing.
yeah,
No, it was like I think it's been out for like 12 minutes. You guys,
yeah. They're on the fifth track. They're on the fifth track
right, right, yeah,
on a 13 song album, I think it was.
yeah. It's kind of wild, and I have to be careful not to sound like a hypocrite because obviously when I sit down and I listen to an album for the first time and I just go through my experience with it for the first time, I'm making statements and I'm discussing this and I'm
Mhm.
discussing that, and because that's my current experience. But I feel like what you're saying, you got to spend more time with something because
Yeah.
there have been albums where I was like I remember when I did Kendrick Lamar's Damn, and
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
and I finished it. I thought to myself, "Oh shit, I don't like it." Like there's a Kendrick album I actually don't like.
Mm.
But then at the end of that week, after listening to it more, I was like, "Nope, this is his best one."
Yeah, and you did your additional thoughts video. That's why I think it's important to kind of go back, and a lot of reaction channels or kind of music channels don't do that. They'll review it once and then they'll stay like that. They won't change their opinion or anything. And that's why I like when you do your additional thoughts videos, because you said when you listened to them, you had what there was a song, I think it was Lust, that you didn't have Hearted, and then you hearted it
Yeah.
uh, after you had listened to it more and more. And you said it was, and now it's one of your favorite songs from the album, you said. So it's kind of cool to see the change, and you have to kind of let it sink in. And I'm sure it's still sinking in for you, because all these years later, it's still kind of making a stamp on rap music, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's, I always wonder sometimes what's happening inside the mind. Like, how can you listen to something once and have a certain experience with it, but then on the 10th listen, it's different, because the music isn't changing. And like, maybe your setting is changing a little bit. Maybe your frame of mind is changing a little bit, depending on the mood that you're in or something like that. But it's wild to me to hear people talk about, and even myself talk about, when people say, I didn't like Frank Ocean's Blonde album. Like, I just didn't get it. It wasn't my thing. And then all of a sudden, one day I put it on and it all just clicked, and now it's my favorite one.
Mm.
It's strange that we have such a wide difference of experience with the same music, even though the music hasn't changed.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a difference between saying, "Oh, it hasn't clicked for me yet," and there's a difference between saying, "Nope, it's bad. It's not a good album."
That's true.
Because I think a lot of people did that with Morale, even like recently. They listened to it, like, "Oh, this is Kendrick's worst. This has got to be worst quality," and then they're hearing it again. They're understanding the messages that he's kind of putting out there, and it's kind of eye-opening to see how many people called it trash on the first day, and now it's their favorite Kendrick album. So
yeah, or and obviously subjectivity and a difference of opinion comes into play too. But anytime somebody says, "Oh yeah, Yeezus is garbage," I just go,
yeah,
which version of Yeezus were you listening to?
yeah. It's pretty different for Kanye. I guess all of his albums are kind of very vastly different. But when Jesus came out, it was like something you've never heard, especially if you get an opening track like on site and those sounds are just
Yeah,
booming in your ear.
yeah,
Huge, those synths and the bass and then it flipped to that choir, and it's like, what am I hearing? I don't want to listen to this. I want to go back and listen to the College Dropout for the 50th time. So it's you definitely have to let it sink in more than people are doing. And when I heard Yeezus, I was kind of shocked by it, because I wasn't sure about it, and I wasn't sure if I liked it or didn't like it. But there are some of my favorite songs are from Yeezus, so it's really cool to see that change in people and how people can kind of shift from one way. And it's not that, and it's different from calling it trash, as I said before. But it's different from saying, "Oh, this didn't click yet, but now it has." So
yeah. And it is an interesting, I think this is where some of the social media stuff starts to infiltrate in, because so often in social media, just in general, you see people taking a distinct side on something. Either they're for something or they're against something. You don't really see a lot of people talking about how, well, I'm still taking in this information and that information, and I haven't come to a conclusion yet. Like, you just don't see that.
see maybe a few people doing that, yeah, but it's
Not very much.
for the most, like, "Oh, this album's amazing," or this is not good.
Yeah, but not even
Saying,
just
"Oh,
with music.
I don't understand this." Yeah,
Yeah, I'm saying with
it's movies too.
yeah, with
It's
just with
everything.
anything,
Yeah.
politics, anything. People, it seems like on social media specifically, there's two sides to every little topic, and there's very little discussion about being in the middle and trying to figure out where it comes from, and needing more time to think about it or whatever. And I wonder if that persistent type of environment online bleeds into how people experience other things like music, like movies, etc.
Yeah.
Because there just seems to be this it's almost like people are being wired to, oh, I have to make a decision, I have to have an
Yeah,
opinion now, and that's it.
yeah. And I'm kind of guilty for that. Like, I will go before I see a movie because I'm kind of big into movies too. I'll go on the Rotten Tomatoes and look at the score, and it'll say like, oh, 50%, and I'll go into that movie saying, oh, this isn't going to be a good movie. And then I come out after, like, yeah, they were right. Instead of maybe if I didn't see that, I maybe it's at 80%, for me. So I just think that, especially Twitter. Twitter is pretty crazy on the times how much they're in love with something or how much they hate something. So it's just I think people need to take more time to maybe stay away from those things until they've experienced it themselves. It's kind of hard to stay away from it nowadays.
It is harder. Yeah, it is a lot harder. But I agree. I think that's one of the things I love the most about going into an album each week is going in as blind as possible. Sometimes you need to know context. That helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just enjoying the music, I mean, this is something I've come to understand a lot better recently with hip hop and, competition and, who's the best and all this other stuff. But I still kind of disagree with that stance because I feel like with music especially, it all just gets to exist in its own place. And you can like it, you can love it, you can hate it, you can call it mid. It doesn't really matter. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's your experience, and that experience might change over time if you give it a chance. And this idea that it's got to either win or lose, it feels very out of place to me with something artistic like music.
Yeah. It's just, oh, it feels like judging something like this and having a pre look at what it's going to be kind of sets you up for, oh, what's coming, instead of like you do when you listen to the albums, you'll look at the lyrics and you'll want to press on what the lyrics mean. But then you don't because you want to think about it, and then you'll do your additional thoughts like, oh, I found out what this meant. So
Yeah.
it's cool to dissect yourself instead of having people do it for you, which I think a lot of people need to take the time to do because you're not going to think about the album if you already understand and know the whole contextual meaning behind it.
And I think also I totally agree with that. But in addition to that, I think there's a lot of music that people they would have connected to on a personal level if they would have just experienced it themselves rather than
Yeah.
going, oh, this is what this song is about, therefore it doesn't apply to me, therefore I
Yeah.
can't connect with it on a personal level.
Exactly. So it's people like going back to Mr. Morale when they heard Anti Diaries and it's talking about his transgender relative and all these people on Twitter are like, oh, this song has no depth to it. I'm like, well, it's telling his story, it's not your story.
Yeah, I that
And,
song,
and
you know, I can see why people would say that, but then I watched Turning the Tables and I watched Kevin talk about his brother and it was like, oh, that
mm,
completely put a different perspective on it because
yeah,
while it is true that Kendrick is talking about his personal experience and in his life and what have you, it also there's so many other people that have had a similar experience. And so
yeah,
in that
exactly.
it doesn't belong to just him, it belongs to several people and then you end up
Yeah.
knowing these people and then it kind of belongs to you in a small way.
That's why I think that album is so important to this year because people are going through those changes, and I think that song kind of helped a lot of people realize what was really happening with themselves and people that they know, even, which is that song's one of the most creative songs on that album, along with Mother I Sober, because it's both dealing with real world problems and issues, which I guess the whole album is, but those ones are the ones that kind of the deepest.
Yeah, and it connects with it's about real people too. You know,
Yeah, it is.
it's one thing to hear a song about whatever, and it just seems like okay, maybe they're telling a story, maybe they're just making this shit up, maybe it's just cool lyrics for a song
Mm,
or whatever. But like when somebody gets
yeah,
really personal like that, yeah, it's about real people. It really
yeah,
matters, and sometimes it's hard to, as a listener, sometimes it's hard to realize that. you know, it's so easy to consume. At least for me, I feel like so easy to consume media, whether it's a movie or music or whatever, and just go, oh, there's
Yeah.
something that somebody made, and not realize this piece of art derives from an experience the artist has that directly relates to their life in some way,
Yeah.
and it could be about real people in their life.
And it's not like I go and see a movie and it's say, oh, this doesn't resonate with me as much as it may have with the person next to me. So it's kind of cool to see that change in us humans, to see what we relate to and how we get engaged with the thing we're listening to or reading or watching. And it's just that balance between, do I understand this or does this person understand this? And kind of relates back to the uh, accessibility of it, because it's something that a lot of people will love, and maybe this one's not for you, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think that's circles there behind you on your.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, you were
And
saying that, I immediately started thinking about Mac Miller and some of the stuff that he's saying
mm,
about, especially in that album, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, it's this one. Uh, it's the posthumous one, and I think it's his most real album. Uh, and Swimming was just the beginning of what Circles ended up to be.
Yeah.
You're getting all these of exposing yourself in these songs. Circles kind of just was the cake for that one, I guess.
Yeah. Circles was really good. Really
It
good.
was, yeah, yeah,
I
it
really enjoyed
was.
that
Every
album.
song, the different instruments that are used on there throughout, it's pretty
Yeah.
good. And I like when he's singing, and I like when he's rapping too. But when he's singing, he's got such a great voice, and it's kind of similar to Mac DeMarco in a way.
Oh, okay. I don't know who that is. The name sounds familiar.
Um, yeah, it's kind of, their style's kind of similar. This album just, he opens up so much more about who he really is and the things he's done and how he feels about, and the drugs and stuff like that. So it's just cool to see
Yeah.
where he's coming from.
You know, it's one of the things I would like to know is when he was making that music, because you were talking earlier about how, you know, if it resonates more with other people than with you, and that how that
Yeah,
experience ties into something. I sometimes wonder about the artists and what they think will click with the people who are listening, because
yeah, yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard the story about I forget the name of the band. I think it's Plain White Tees, but have you heard that song Hey There Delilah?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently that song they almost didn't put it on the album. The guy
Really?
the
And
guy
that's
had
their
a
most popular song too.
That's their most popular song by far. The
Yeah.
guy, he wrote it for his girlfriend. She was in art school in New York or something like that, and you know they were long distance relationship, and he just kind of wrote this little thing, and they recorded it, and you know, the band was talking about, well, what do we do with it? And it's like, no one's gonna like it. It's about my girlfriend. She's got this weird name that nobody else has, so nobody else is gonna
Yeah.
like sing it to their girlfriend or whatever. Like, no, I mean, whatever. They almost didn't put it on the album, and then they just decided, well, we'll put it as like a hidden track at the end, whatever. And then it just blew up, completely blew up.
Yeah.
And then I
It
wonder, you
was.
know, with Mac Miller, when he's writing some of these songs, if he feels like people aren't going to hear what he's going to say. You know, I think about Kanye and Runaway
Yeah.
and how like
Runaway, yeah. The
nobody's
whole might be
listening, and
that whole album is kind of like uh kind of him about himself and how he's this monster, like the song Monster, and how he's kind of, and then Runaway just ties everything up so well.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
that rambling at the end, when it's kind of like you can't tell what he's saying, in the vocal effects. Those are supposed to be like, oh, this is my brain. It's, I don't know for sure because I haven't talked to Kanye about it,
yeah,
but I've heard people say this is kind of his brain and how it's so can't express anything that he's feeling. So it's kind of just coming out as, word vomit, I guess.
yeah. I've heard other people say that it was kind of his version of saying when I talk, this is all people hear is just jarbled nonsense because
Oh yeah,
they're not
that's
actually
cool too.
listening to
Yeah.
what I'm saying. They're just,
Mm,
they're hearing something else completely.
yeah, and I love concept albums like that. It's like Me If You Get Lost was one that was recent. A concept I actually have
Oh,
the
nice.
tour shirt on
Nice.
for Come If You Get Lost. Yeah. Another one, Illmatic by Nas, and he's just his whole struggle growing up. To Pimp a Butterfly
Oh,
was
yeah.
probably my favorite one, but I'm kind of biased by that, and it just wraps up the whole story of reading to Tupac.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to hear a narrative like that in an album, and people like Good Kid, Mad City. I keep relating it to Kendrick, but Good Kid, Mad City is just story. But I feel like a lot of the songs are more accessible than the ones on Tip of a Butterfly because there's not all this crazy instrumentation on it.
Well, and that,
But it's still a story. That's why it's so smart because he can have this mainstream effect while also having a really well-rooted story.
yeah.
So,
And with To Pimp a Butterfly, man, I mean, some of the lyrical content is so
yeah,
like
heavy.
meticulous and thorough and exhaustive, and it's like you need references upon references to get it all of what he's talking about.
Even in like the most popular song, All Right, it's all about black people in America, and people dance around to that song like it's nothing, which is, it's like it's it's a great song. I love the song. It's amazing. But and then sometimes you just don't pay attention to the lyrics enough, which I would dance around to that song too. But if you sit down and listen to what that song's saying, it makes you think about the choices that you're making and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and then with that, that's a great like segue into again what I wonder what the artists think about when either they're creating a song with a specific intent, or they've made a
Mm,
song and it means a certain thing to them, and then it gets out into the public, and then it turns into something totally different. Something they did not
yeah.
expect or foresee or even want necessarily. And I wonder how that feels, and I wonder. I don't know. It's just it'd be cool to talk to an artist who had a song like that,
Yeah.
and just get their
Yeah.
take on it, what they think about it.
And going back to All Right, that was 2015, and then these Black Lives Matter protests were what, 2 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe? I
something like
think they were
that. Yeah.
maybe 2 years ago, and they were chanting that song walking down the street, which is kind of cool to see the impact that that song still has. And I'm sure Kendrick didn't make that song for people to be marching down the street singing to, which is cool to see how that song has evolved and aged. Uh,
Yeah.
he probably didn't intend it to be like that.
Yeah. So let's get back onto, I guess, attention spans, because the irony I like right now is the fact that the idea of people not taking the time to listen to music and really kind of focus on it for a while,
Yeah.
and we've completely wandered away from that,
Oh yeah, like 100%.
which is fine. I mean, that's one thing I do
Yeah.
like a lot about this format is how it is just a conversation. It wanders around all
Oh
over the
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if, what do I actually wonder? Yeah, I was thinking about the artist, and a lot of what we were talking about is still kind of just swirling around inside my head.
Yeah.
But when it comes to people and new music, because this is a pretty, at least in the Discord server, I see this fairly often. But what's neat about the little tight knit community I have there is everybody really loves music, and there's no like fear or concern about listening to something new, and like there's no risk involved. And I feel like sometimes when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, I just listen to that. I listen to this," and you ask them, "Well, do you ever listen to so and so?" "No." "How come?" "Oh, I don't know." And it's like, "Well, they're really good. You should check them out." "Yeah, I don't know." And I get this sensation of, I don't want to say fear because that's too far, but like this hesitancy. And
Yeah.
I always wonder, well, why does that even exist? I mean, it's not like if you don't like the song, they come and take $20 from you or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no risk. You just put it on, and if you enjoy it, cool, you found something new. And if you don't, you just don't listen to it again. It's that simple.
Yeah. I think that is something that everyone kind of goes through, in the fact that you'll go to your friend and say, "Oh, listen to this song is like, well, who is that? And I say, oh, it's whoever. And they'll say, well, I don't know them. I say, well, you should check them out. And then they'll be like, well, maybe I'll check it out. And then the next day I'll come back and say, do you like this song? He's like, oh, I didn't listen to it. So I was like, oh, okay. And it's the kind of, like you said, I think it is kind of hesitancy of, I think that's the word, hesitancy. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
it
not.
is. Yeah.
Um, of just something that, like, I don't know. I don't understand it.
I don't
Actually, is
understand it
why I can't even
either.
talk about it.
I can kind of, agree with it back when I was a teenager, and really the only way to kind of check something out was, yeah, okay, you got to buy a CD, you got to lay down $15 for it. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe they'll play some stuff on the radio, or maybe you can borrow something from somebody, but before the days of like burning CDs and Napster and downloading and all that other stuff,
yeah,
you kind of had to put some money down to check it
yeah. He
out.
did. Yeah. So
And
it was
that,
kind of a gamble on what you're gonna be listening to.
yeah, but nowadays, when you can just touch a piece of glass and there it is. Like what's the worry?
Yeah,
Why is there any amount of hesitation of, oh, I don't know if I want to listen to it. Well, just put it on and see what
yeah. And
happens.
I'm kind of guilty of that as well. Like I will see a video on whatever YouTube or TikTok praising the Money Store by Death Grips. Into the first five songs, I can't get into it, which and I try maybe every once in a while. It's just not for me, and I know it's supposed to be an amazing album. That's why I don't want to hate on it,
Yeah.
but it's just I like the first song. I like Get Got, but that's like their most popular song, so it's kind of just I'm not really hesitant to listen to it. It's just kind of something that I don't love coming back to, I guess.
But see, that's different though, because you at least did
Yeah,
give it a try, you know? And
yeah,
it's one thing to listen to an album and go, ugh, I don't like this. And well, while earlier we were discussing how sometimes you got to give yourself more time with an album to really settle into it and see what you think.
yeah,
Sometimes you just know right away, like, no, this ain't my thing.
yeah,
But you still have to at least hear it once to get to that point. And some people they
yeah.
won't. Well, it's not that they won't, but some people you like really have to push them off of that little tiny cliff that's only that
Mm.
high. And I
Yeah,
I wonder why sometimes.
that's why I'll listen to something, and if I don't like it, I'll say, okay, I'm gonna leave it for now, and I'll come back to it, and if I don't like it, then maybe I don't listen to it. Um, but there's an album that came out in 2020, and I know you've listened to it. It's a whole lot of red, and I know I'll mention this album to people. It's like this is really kind of genre bending, maybe not genre bending, but for the trap subgenre. I think it's really kind of a different artistic style, and I'll say maybe you should listen to this. It's really kind of changed that whole subgenre as a whole. And like, no, he's just screaming the whole time. I said, no, he's not. He's not just screaming the whole time. And people will ask me like, who are your favorite artists? And I'll say, oh, Playboy Cardi's up there, and they're like, oh, really? He doesn't have anything to say. And said maybe it's not always about the things they have to say. It's just more about how it makes you feel. But that's a whole another story for how stuff makes you feel. But just going back to people not wanting to listen to things because it's different and or he's screaming, I guess.
Yeah, that whole. I still remember my experience, the first one with Whole Lot of Red,
Yeah, yeah,
and
so did
it.
I. I'd been waiting for that album for 2 years, and it was Christmas morning. It was 12 a.m. and I'd stopped breathing in my ear, and I was like, "Oh, it's a lot for this late at night." But I now it's probably my Astroworld and Whole Lotta Red are probably my favorite albums.
I
Just
remember
because of the
just.
experiences I had with them.
Yeah, I mean, so on your first listen, I mean, what were you thinking? What were you going through when you were hearing all that stuff?
Uh, it, uh, it was just. I remember sitting there, like I don't even know what I heard. I remember going up to my mom the next morning. It was Christmas, and she said, "How was the album?" Because she know I'd been waiting for it, and I said, "I don't even know what to say." And I uh, played her "Jump Out the House," which is just doing the same thing for 30 seconds, and she's like, I don't know what this is, and now I won't skip jump out the house if it comes on because I like it. So it's just initial reaction was kind of, I don't know, this is unlike anything I've heard in the past while. So that's where I think the hesitancy comes in, is people have never heard anything like that in their genre that they listen to, so they're kind of scared to stray off and go listen to it.
Yeah, and then you know this kind of comes back to something we were lightly touching on earlier. Is it seems like some people. It seems like there is an amount of people out there that they want someone else to kind of give their opinion to them, you know?
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of people that will watch a review or read a review before they go watch the movie or listen to the album or whatever. And it's like, instead of going in blind and just experience it for themselves, they need to know what other people think so that then they can know what to think.
Yeah, I think a lot of my friends will kind of, like, a lot of them like the same music I do. That's one of my friends' favorite artists is The Weeknd and Drake, or that I like them, but it's not my favorite. But I'll go take the time to listen to that, and I do really like The Weeknd. I do really like Drake. Then I'll go to my other friends who listen to trap and R&B, kind of, and explore those a bit. And I'll say maybe I don't like this genre as much as I like this genre, and just see which things I like, and then try to focus myself on that so I can kind of enjoy those moments with my friends where I can listen to the stuff that they like. And I think that kind of goes back to the hesitancy of it, is maybe if I don't like this stuff, then maybe I'm not going to click with my friends as much.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I never consider that angle, just because for me music is so personal. I don't care if nobody else likes it. Like if I like it, that's all that matters to me. Now, obviously there are times that it sucks when my wife is up or we're in the car and I'm like, man, I really want to listen to this, but she hates that shit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I'll be driving and I'll put, I'll tell my friend to put this on. And they'll be like, no, that's not good. And they'll put whatever on. So it's kind of good to find a balance between both genres that you can kind of both like. So
yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like on one hand I agree, but on the other hand I feel like, well, that's just too nice. I'd rather just listen to what I want to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
but,
man.
There's, like, even my dad, I'll try to get my dad to listen to some of the stuff that I like. And he likes Earl. He likes Earl, again, is really different. And he likes Earl, he likes Tyler, he likes Kendrick, Chance the Rapper. Have you heard any Chance the Rapper albums
Not
yet?
yet. I have not listened to Chance yet.
Okay, he likes Chance, and even one of Young Thug's albums, which is kind of surprising to me because he doesn't like the trap stuff.
Okay.
So, but it's just kind of sharing those experiences while also having your own kind of, this is my stuff, but I kind of want to explore this with people around me, is kind of good to have. It's just kind of my side of that.
Yeah. Now, I mean, did it take a while for your dad to kind of ease into some of this stuff, or was he okay with it from the get-go?
Oh, honestly, he showed me a lot of it. You know the website Pitchfork? Maybe not.
I'm aware of it. I never visit there.
It's a music review. Yeah, he goes on there and he finds all these things, and they give it like a score out of 10. So he'll listen. So the hip hop albums that he liked when he was growing up, he liked Ready to Die, Straight Outta Compton. Yes, because those are like the classics and stuff. But then he listened to Tip of a Butterfly and is completely blown away by it. So then
Nice.
he loves Kendrick. It's probably one of his favorite artists. He showed me Tyler when Flower Boy came out. He had it on. Chance, he showed me that too. It's just, I don't know, he showed me a lot of stuff, but
That's
there's
cool.
stuff I show you now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Now, I'm starting to have that a little bit because my son is getting to a point where he likes to tear off and listen to his own music, and he'll come back. And
Yeah.
I remember about a year ago, he was going through this Muse phase. I don't know if you know who Muse is. They're a rock band.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh, Pop Up, you got to listen to this one. Oh, my God, Pop Up, listen to this one. It was like every day he had a new song that he was totally into. I had to listen to it. I was like, all right. And he kind of converted me. I mean, they've got some really good music.
Yeah. And even when you said your wife loves food now, right?
Or well, she likes Mad Villainy. She's very, very excited about
Villainy.
food. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing food
Yeah,
on
Mad
Friday.
Villainy. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So I know that much. She probably wouldn't have even known who MF Doom was
No.
until you kind of allowed her to kind of see these new albums and stuff like that.
Yeah, that has been something for her too, because she likes music quite a bit, but she likes it in a different way. She used to play band in high school, and she's gone to different like concert halls, and so she really loves live music, and she really loves a lot of the history that's associated with art and music and stuff like that. And so that's what she gets into. I'm more about just the experience of listening and different albums and lyrics and so on and stuff. And so basically her musical tastes have derived from what I listen to, because I can name so many artists, albums, songs, and she can't hardly name any of them.
Yeah.
And so through this channel, she really likes Kendrick. She likes a lot of Kanye songs. She loves Mad Villainy. She loves Mac Miller now. Like it's been cool to watch her hear new stuff and just get into it as we're going through it.
Yeah. That's why I like showing my friends stuff, because I'll show my friends something and they'll say, oh, I really like this, and then I'll see them the next day at school or whatever, and they'll be listening to that song. So it's kind of cool to share that moment where maybe just show this person something that they'll like for the rest of their life or something like that.
Yeah, it's really neat. But then it's like the nice side, because the flip side obviously being what we already talked about with the people who are like, well, no, I'm not gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
And
I think that relates back to that too. Yeah.
Well, what's so infuriating is, especially when maybe you've recommended music to your friends before, and like, oh yeah, I really like that, and I really like this, and then you like, oh, you know what, so and so would love this, so you tell them, okay, listen to this one now. No. What do you mean? What do you mean no? Like you've liked these last two that I gave to you, right? Yeah. Well, try this one out. Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, and that kind of relates back to the hesitance and fear of it, is that stepping out of your comfort zone where these are your artists. You have buddy that you like listening to, and then you have this new genre over here. Oh, I don't know these people. I don't know if it's good because I haven't heard of them. It can't be that good. So it's even like I listened to new albums this year. I listened to Black on Both Sides for the first time. I listened to I listened to Atrocity Exhibition for the first time. I listened to Veteran for the first time, and all those are different experiences.
Yeah. Which
is from before I'd be listening to the same trap albums and the same genres, where now I kind of expand those to more experimental stuff.
Yeah, and I wonder, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about just the idea of old heads, popped into my mind, and what that kind of fan it means and implies and stuff. And I remember going through an experience where, like in the early 2000s, there was this phase, this subgenre called nu metal, and it was kind of a break away from this sound that you would hear from like Metallica and some of these older 80s rock metal bands and stuff. It's a little bit different, a little bit more emotional, maybe, I don't know. And I remember back then going, I'm just not really into this, but I could never pinpoint why. And I feel like part of it was, well, they're not these guys, and these guys are better. And so if they're better, why would you listen to them when they're not better? But I feel like now that whole idea is kind of dumb, just because if you only listen to the music that you consider to be the absolute best, okay, great, you're listening to the great music and all that, but you're also going to limit yourself to such a small circle of music.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love doing is if you put on a new album and you explore it, like really explore it, let it really listen to it. Every now and then you'll find a song that, yeah, no one ever talks about, and you go, this song's amazing. You know, that hidden gem that's tucked away. Like
On every album, I'll find that.
Yeah.
And on Rodeo by Travis Scott, there's I feel like Nightcrawler. The production on Nightcrawler is just crazy, and it's just kind of everyone always talks about 90210
right.
and Maria I'm Drunk, but no one, I never see people talk about Nightcrawler. The production's just crazy, and the I don't know, just vocal inflections are really good.
That's
It's
something.
like those songs that you find are kind of special to you in a sense that, oh, I haven't seen anyone talk about this song, so it's kind of personally something I really like.
Yeah, and it's something I've always enjoyed because even before the channel, you know, I'd go buy CDs or whatever and throw a CD on, and it's like, oh wow, this is a cool song. I mean, I've had experiences where I've hated the whole CD except one song.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
was
me
one
too.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I think that's something that's special about just exploring new music, and you know, it's different now because back when I was younger, it was all about the radio, and whatever the radio would play, that's the songs everybody knew because that's the only way you had access to it for the most part. But then you got into this concept of what was called deep cuts, and it's exactly what we're saying,
Yeah.
you know, those hidden tracks that people don't know about. But it is so cool to just find something, especially when it's existed for like 10 years and you finally
Yeah.
put it on and you hear it for the first time and you're like, man, I could have been enjoying this for how many years and I had no idea it even existed.
It's really cool to find something that you know, and then you can show this, and then maybe it does become popular and be like, oh, I really love this song, and I'm glad people are finally talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just had it and it went away. I just had it and it went away. The thought. Oh well. I can't remember now.
I kind of want to touch on the albums that you've heard that like no songs on except for the one song. What are some examples of albums like that, if you could think of one or two?
Well, they're hard to remember because obviously the albums weren't that good.
Yeah, because they were good, yeah.
There was one shit. What was it called? I can picture the cover. It was like this weird like yellow cover and it had like a zebra on it and weird color. It was like Animal Mother or something like that. And I think the song was called Broken or something like that.
Mm.
And I remember it being some sort of, it wasn't really like a super band, but it was a band of, you know, members from different bands that came together and to do a thing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And that one song was so good. I was like, oh, cool. I'll get the CD and check it out. And I was like, oh man, I don't
Yeah.
like any of this other stuff.
Why couldn't all the songs be like this?
Yeah, and it's really strange how sometimes you'll hear a song, you're like, that's great, and then you put on the album, you're like, what the fuck happened? Like, how,
Yeah.
who wrote, like, did they not write this song? Did somebody else make this song?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really strange.
It just makes you question the actual because maybe they got success off that one hit, and it says that even kind of relates to one hit wonders. Like you'll hear a song that you'll love and you're like, oh, I gotta check this person out more, and then you go into their other stuff, it's like this doesn't even sound like the same kind of person.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's really strange.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad. You know, the other thing
It
that
is.
is terrible too now with the streaming services, it's kind of the inverse of that is you'll find a song that you really, you know, just by chance, like maybe you put on, because they'll have like, oh, recommended for you, and it's just a playlist of a bunch of songs, right? You put it on, you listen to it. Oh, wow, I've never heard this song. Oh, this song's really cool. And then you go and try and find more of their music, and all they've done is release like 3 singles over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys don't have any more music? You're like, no, just those 2
Yeah.
songs. God
Just
damn
the
it.
3 songs that came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, there's an album I have. The group is called Industries of the Blind. It's completely instrumental. It's only 3 tracks on the album. The songs are like 13, 14-minute song. Fucking amazing album. And that's it. They only have that one, and there's no other music. They haven't released anything.
Yeah.
I don't think the band exists anymore, and it just kills me because that album is so good.
Yeah, what you said about instrumental albums, there's a lot of people I think that I think artists should start doing this more, is releasing just the instrumentals to an album on streaming. So like something like with really good production, like Pinata or
Yeah.
Mad Village or something like that. All the instrumentals are samples, and even Pablo, which is behind me too. All of the songs are just there's so much to hear and so many sounds, and sometimes you just want to experience that without the artist in it.
That's what was so cool about that Unlocked album with Kenny Beats and
Yeah,
Denzel.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just you could listen to the instrumental if you wanted to, and that was such a neat experience. Just because that's the first time where I've realized or I've gotten to hear with my own ears how much space a rapper can occupy with their voice and their lyrics. You know, because
Yeah,
you take Denzel away, and it's completely different.
yeah.
And I remember listening to it,
There's-
thinking to myself, okay, what would I say here? How would I do it? And I just had nothing. And then you put Denzel back in, and it's like, holy shit! It's just a freight train of lyrics coming through.
Yeah, because he's kind of crazy with the verses. There's a bunch of different flows and stuff used in every verse, and it's kind of just cool to hear his version, what he made, and then it's kind of cool to picture Denzel sitting there writing the verse, like what's gonna go here, what ad libs am I gonna use here,
Yeah,
and yeah,
I really like the Cave with Kenny and watching that whole process
yeah,
come together of just okay, Kenny's putting together some beats based off of like this ridiculous. I like how they come in and try and stump him with all this crazy criteria of,
yeah,
I want something that's like acid rap, but it's slow, but like my grandma could listen to it, and there's jazz and chord.
yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's smooth, and it's 25 different genres, and he can somehow
Yeah.
pull it off.
And then they go on there and do their crazy nonsense with the freestyling, and like I can't even try and imagine doing
'Cause
something like that. And then here comes this
uh,
just new song.
have you heard Zoo, the album Zoo by Denzel Curry?
Not yet. No, I haven't done that one.
That entire album's all freestyled,
Oh
which
no
is
shit.
really every song's a freestyle, and it's one of his best albums. Every song's like super aggressive on there. It's like nonstop. It's just like he freestyled through the whole thing. I don't know if that's what actually happened or if he just freestyled on different parts through the song, but it flows so well together that it feels like he did actually just go through the whole thing at once.
That's crazy. And
Yeah,
that's an interesting twist on doing something new and experiencing something new, because let's just say for the sake of argument that is a fact that Denzel freestyled that whole thing.
yeah,
I mean, from a creative standpoint, I mean, we've talked about, not wanting to listen to new stuff or hearing something
mm,
new and immediately making a judgment on it if it's good or bad or
yeah,
whatever. But here, that now you're in the creative side of, okay, I'm gonna do something that's completely new in terms of creating, and I'm just gonna create blind. I'm gonna go in and just
yeah.
freestyle this whole thing, no planning, no nothing, just do it. Like, that's pretty wild to think about.
Yeah, it is because you're gonna have that. You have to be super creative to freestyle for. I think the album's probably a half hour, and if you did do that whole run in a half hour, it's so crazy to think about. And maybe it's not true, but he did say it was freestyles. And if it was freestyles, that's pretty crazy to picture you going over a 3 minute song, just going no pauses in between there, and
Yeah,
just coming up with like the most meticulous rhyme schemes and stuff like that. It's just cool.
it is a neat skill. It's something I think about from time to time, and I wonder how long it takes to practice and practice and practice and get to a
Yeah,
point, because it's like with anything, the more you focus on it, the more your mind kind of settles into that idea, and then you just get better at something, right? But
yeah,
I've always wondered what it's like to have the mind that can think in a freestyle format of always
yeah. With
putting
the
rhyme.
rhymes just sitting there, just they're
Yeah.
just sitting there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's so smooth, and especially when you hear Zoo, and I'm sure you will soon. Um, when you hear that album, it's just sounds all natural. Like he did write it, he took time to write it, which is just kind of unbelievable. The how all just right out of his head. He just walked in the studio, said, "Okay, let's go," and then he just started going.
Yeah. 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 Huh. And then I immediately think of Jay-Z too. And apparently, he's not quite freestyle in the sense that he would have it in his head beforehand, but he never wrote it
Yeah,
down apparently.
yeah, that's a skill that I think a lot of people might use, but I've written songs before, obviously, for whether that's for like I had a music class last semester, so I had to kind of write songs, and sometimes the lines would just come to my head so quickly, and others I'd sit there for like, what am I putting here? I have no idea what I'm gonna do here. So it's cool to see how artists just they're so professional and they've been doing it for so long that they have that ability to just have the stuff ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I wonder, kind of going back to all of it, is the things that they choose to write, the things that they choose to put out
Mm.
there. I think there are certain artists who don't give a shit. Kanye's going to say whatever the fuck he wants to say, which is great.
Yeah,
I think Peggy is going to say whatever the fuck he wants to say, which is
yeah,
great. Other artists as well. But then I wonder about other artists who go, okay, I'm trying to make a certain album. I'm trying to put out a certain story, message, whatever. But if I say it like this versus saying it like that, how's it going to be received?
yeah,
Are people going to take the time to listen to it? Even though, because
yeah,
one thing I always find interesting is when like Tyler's a great example of when an artist evolves and changes and grows,
yeah.
and then people go,
Crazy from
yeah, no, he is, and then people, when the new music comes out, they go, oh, I don't like it because it changed.
yeah. It's like seeing him go from Goblin to Igor. He's it's just him on Goblin talking about killing people and him depression, and then you go to Igor, and it's this whole story about his relationship, and each song he produced that whole thing, I'm pretty sure. I remember hearing him talk about when I was at his show for the Call Me If You Get Lost tour. He was on stage actually talking about how he produced and wrote New Magic Wand, and how he was in there for an hour, and that production's wild.
I
And
love
he
that
said he
one.
took so much time. He said he took so much time to kind of master that song because he wanted it to be perfect because he knew it was going to be big.
That song is so good. I think that's one
Yeah,
of my favorites from him. It's really really good. And same thing with
yeah,
What's Good. That's a great track off that album
yeah.
too.
What's good? Yeah, it's crazy energy. That it's you go from tracks from Earthquake to it's good. It's like such a such a wide variety on the album.
Yeah, it's wild. It is wild, man. And and this is something that's really cool too because I feel like Tyler, and I feel like this is why it's so important for anybody who's creating, whether music, whatever it is that they're going to do, and then they have an intention of releasing it to the public. I feel like it's so important to create for yourself. Make what
Mm.
you want to make, express what you want to express, because as soon as you start factoring in what everybody else is going to think, what they're going to like,
Yeah.
not going to like, it just ruins it completely. Like, no, do what you're going to
Hmm.
do it really well, and then to hell with what people say about it, because as long as you
Yeah,
like it,
exactly.
that's all that matters.
There are like a lot of people, and not even just rappers, artists in general, who make songs for the radio, and I think that's it's not sad, but it's just make something that you are proud of, and not something that you're gonna make money off of. Just something like uh Igor, going back to Igor, that has no song radio songs on it except maybe Earthquake.
Yeah.
There's no other songs I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna turn on the radio and I'm gonna hear Puppet, you know.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah. It's like you make this album for you and because you want to tell a story. And if we're staying on Tyler, his Call Me If You Get Lost, Wilshire, it's like an 8 minute song about just his relationship over the same beat for 8 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so invested in that one story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. It's really cool. But then, so we're about 55. Um, I always do if you got closing thoughts, but I'll toss a question to you and then we can do closing thoughts after. This
Okay.
whole idea of, making something for the radio just to make money is sad. a lot of people have said that about Drake and his, current,
Yeah.
batch of releases, and he's not really trying
Yeah.
anymore and all this stuff. I mean, so how do you feel
Yeah.
about that? What do you think about that?
I think that's actually 100% true. I'm not gonna try to be biased or anything. I think that his last few albums have just been kind of just it's like the most mainstream thing possible, and that's why I kind of respect the route he went with his last album. But he's still saying the same stuff. He still it's girls and whatever. But the music has changed a lot, and you'd still hear it on the radio because it's Drake. But it's cool to see him just taking the step forward, and I like people making changes with their albums because it's different and it's different style for them. And you turn on a Drake album expecting to hear him rap over some glamorous beat, but instead you turn it on to hear him singing over a dancey club beat. So it's cool to see a difference in something like that, which I'm sure it will still get played on the radio, but it's just makes me think that he didn't do this one just for the money, because there are a lot of people who just try to make it appealing and it sounds the same over and over. And I'm guilty of listening to it, and I'm sure a lot of people are. It's just something that sounds different and kind of out there could be a good change sometimes.
Especially, it's an interesting, this kind of brings it all back together, right? Because back to that idea of I wanted to hear something new, something new, but then this fear of something different. And so I feel like maybe that's the strength that some of these artists have of here's something new, but it sounds just like all the other stuff you've heard from me. So you're still safe. You can listen to it. You don't have to worry about it. It's new, but it's not different.
Yeah, it's the thing, like you hear a huge name, biggest artist in the world right now, maybe The Weeknd, maybe Justin Bieber, something like that. You will go into that with the bias of he's my favorite artist and I'm gonna like it no matter what. But if you go into something that you just listen to time, like maybe you'll go into Future album and say, oh, I like Future, and then I'm used to hearing his trap, and then you go into something, he has an EP that's really, I think it's not The Wizard, it's called Save Me, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's a completely different, like, drowsy style, and people didn't respond great when it first came out. But now it's like, oh, I heard something different from Future, so I don't know if I can like this as much as I like DS2.
Yeah. 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 Huh. It is, I don't know, but then of course the first thing I think is, well, it's not like you have to like everything. I mean, people like things and they don't like things, and that's all there is to it. But it's just, it's perpetually interesting to me how subtle little things will make us happy or unhappy.
It's just kind of denying the new style is kind of what it all comes back to, is you say you want something different, but then you get something different. It's like, oh, I don't know. This is kind of, I don't know if I want to listen to this, I'll go back to listening to what I was listening to before.
Yeah. Well, you got any closing thoughts? This was cool. This was fun. I figured this would be pretty cool, and it was interesting.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of timestamps for this one, probably.
Oh God,
because we went all over the place. Yeah.
I've started getting lazy where it's like, okay, I just kind of lump it into some big thing and then give it a stamp that's not really that descriptive of what we're talking about.
yeah, but it just relates to kind of. But closing thoughts, I just feel like people should give more things a chance than just staying in their own comfort zone, because going out of your way, out of your normal rotation, maybe you're bored one day and you have nothing to do, just throw on something you've never heard and see if you like it.
Yeah, and with that, I would say all the music that you listen to and love now, there was a time when that was also new to you.
Yeah.
So give stuff a chance. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jonathan, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
That was
Thanks
fun.
for having me.
Yeah, everybody listening, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.